On this Byron Lazine podcast, I get to sit down with Connecticut native, just like myself, Jared James. He owns Jared James Coaching Company, media companies. He started, sold, still runs a whole bunch of different companies. True entrepreneur, very well connected in this industry and changing so many agents' trajectories. If you're not familiar with Jared, or even if you are, you don't want to miss this pod. We go personal, we go business, and things you should be thinking about in the future. Hope you enjoy the pod. So, cool little story, Jared. Mm-hmm. First time I ever had any, introduction to you, I was back in, I think, my first, maybe second year in the business.
When I had zero grays?
You have grays now?
I have a couple over here, dude. I get them on that side, not so much on that side.
All right, one side, like me. I got the one little
I'm like a Batman villain. I'm like a Batman villain.
People think I dye that.
Isn't that interesting that people do that? We haven't even let you finish your opening sentence, but isn't that weird that people think that's like you're trying to be the male Cruella de Vil?
Right.
Like people say it to me. They're like, "Oh, you got to put more dye in. Like this is starting to show." And I'm like, "No, I don't care if people do dye their hair, but I don't." Like,
I wouldn't dye a little streak. That would be, my hair grows too fast.
It's
anyways.
2022, man. I mean, what's weird is in. So I mean, I don't put it past anything. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
My good friend Ryan, shout out to Ryan Pineda. He dyes his hair green and blue out there in Vegas. He does all kinds of crazy stuff. But
your friends are high schoolers? I didn't realize that. Good for you. Good for you.
All right. So first introduction to Jared James. Mm-hmm. First couple years in the business, I was at William Pitt Sotheby's. Mm-hmm. Great company, here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
You happen to be headquartered in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I've got my Connecticut team, and you just blew me away. I mean,
you're talking about I did the keynote for them.
You had the keynote.
That's right. Yeah.
And this was in Stamford, I believe. Stanford.
I forget exactly, but I got to drive to it, which was awesome.
Over there, a little driving, talk for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy's the real deal. Super authentic. You delivered. Everybody loved the talk that was there. But you said some things that were like so impactful that are still relevant today.
I hope so.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So some of these key talking points that you've probably delivered over and over that have just always stuck with me. And, you say a lot of things, like people know what you look like, right? When you're talking about video.
Yep.
There's so many. What are some of the main pillar talking points that you've kind of...
So the one you're talking about is, I tell people when it comes to video and doing video, because everybody is, trying to be, perfect and trying to look perfect and trying to connection over perfection. Like that's it. Like at the end of the day, if you're not doing video because you're afraid of how you look and sound, while we're having this conversation, you better have a bag over your head because I can see you. Yeah. And it didn't keep you from having this conversation, right? And then when you look at the pillars of really just our program, I talk about visibility trumps ability, the idea that the best isn't always what wins. It's the one who's actually there, the one who's an option. That's 100% of the time the one that always wins. And in real estate, that's relevant because, we're people are like, oh, I want more listings. There's low inventory. There's not low inventory. There's high demand. There were 6.125 million sales last year. That was the highest number in 15 years. How do you have a record number of sales with low inventory? You know who complains about inventory? People who don't have the listings. Yeah. You know who loves inventory right now? People who have the listings, right? So I'll talk about that kind of stuff. I talk about how consistency is undefeated. Like there are certain things that no matter what, because obviously when you speak at as many places as I do, you have to switch it up constantly, right? It's like a stand-up comedian on the road. Once they release that Netflix special, nobody wants to hear all of those jokes again, right? But then there are pillars that are just tried and true, man. They don't stop. Like they'll always be there.
How many pillars do you have? Have you had these for the last decade? Have they evolved?
They're things that I kind of live by. They're things that I recognize. I use the example of like a stand-up comedian, right? And very much so that's how my mind works, like how I view the world, right? And so I write things, and I forget who I was listening to the other day, but they said I write on the stage, meaning the crowd is my they're my notes, they're my whatever. And so very much like that, right? So the one that I just said, not visibility, when I said that consistency is undefeated, I literally said that like 4 months ago for the first time. I was talking to a crowd. I was talking about something, and I was just in that zone. And I'm like, guys, consistency is undefeated. It's like Father Time. It's undefeated, And I gave this whole thing, and I'm like, well, some of you are like, oh, he's right. I need to be more consistent. And I'm like, no, you're consistent. you know, it still works even when you're not doing the right things, right?
That's what I've heard you say a lot. You're consistently doing the wrong things.
It's like, hey, consistency's undefeated. And we hear that and we go, well, that means, you know, when it's great. So I need to get to that. No. Consistency's undefeated the other way.
Yeah.
Like when you consistently sleep through your alarm, when you consistently avoid awkward conversations, when you consistently do those things, the results are there. When you consistently eat cheeseburgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when you can,
there's going to be
it's still undefeated.
A weight impact.
Yeah. It's still undefeated. It's just a matter of, is it the result you want? So I said that at an audience, and there's these moments where you just kind of like, oh, got it. That clicked, and it becomes one of our things, right? Because I can feel it. I can see it. Another one we say is marry the principal, date the model. You know, it's marry the principal, date the model. Well, what does that mean, right? And I've been saying this for years, and I'll keep saying it. Principles are tried and true, right? The idea of getting in front of a client at the time they need you before someone else does, your competitor does, will always be true, right? So you marry that. That's there. But you date the model, right? And so it's just a fun way of saying date the model, date the strategy. Because when I got into the industry,
A&B test.
Hey, you're calling the phone book,
right?
Saying I got buyers and whatever. That strategy has switched, but what were you trying to do back then? You were trying to get in front of someone at the time they needed you before a competitor, right? And so today's world, that principle still, it's there. We're married to it or whatever, but the strategies constantly change. And so take that same principle of what I'm talking about and pull that forward to today. I've been talking that principle for years, but now I tell people, hey, the quickest way to underperform on your potential is to get romantic about how you got here, right? So the quickest way to underperform on your potential is to get romantic about how you got here. It's another way of saying it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's always worked. Well, I always just put, things on Craigslist and then I get 20 calls. Well, you got romantic about how you got here, right? That's where, as much as we all hate change, and we do, it sucks.
Yeah,
we don't like when we go into a hotel and the toilet paper's coming out the bottom instead of the top. Like, we hate change, right? But at the end of the day, if you get romantic about what got you here today, it's ultimately what keeps you from going to the next place.
Yeah.
And I don't just say these things, I live them. Like, I'm constantly challenging myself, and I'm running businesses, and I'm doing... And so it means a little more when I'm talking to an audience because I legitimately mean what I'm saying because I have to live it. I just left an interview where we hired someone. We just fired someone. Like, it's real.
So if you've had the pleasure of hearing Jared speak live like I have, or like I have looked up a bunch of your YouTube content and you've got keynotes on there, then you're like, whoa, this dude, he's on it. He's got these great principles. But something that's always been curious to me is you were an agent.
Mm-hmm.
You were an actual real estate agent here in Connecticut.
Very successful.
At a young age, very successful. But you didn't do it for a long period of time.
Well, it depends on how you define long period of time. So first off, I started off as my mother's unpaid assistant. So when I was a kid, that's what I did, man. I mean,
right. So there's 10 years.
Dude, I was the kid at basketball practice with a briefcase that didn't have a code to it. Like I was entrepreneurial from the time I was just out the womb, right? I got in full time, and I'm really, really, really bad with anyone around you, and anybody around me will tell you, I'm terrible with date frames and times and that kind of stuff. It's not how my brain works. So I got in myself, I want to say when I was maybe around 2003.
How old are you now?
3, 4. I just turned 40 in
Just
November.
turned 40.
Yeah, just turned 40. I want credit that I can still hear you from that far away after turning 40, but I got in and I think I went full boat, like actual, like doing it and whatever for, God, I want to say like 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
So you're talking before the GFC, probably 04-ish.
I'm talking, I actually was operating through the 08, 09, the stuff we talk a lot about now.
Yeah.
I was operating during that. And the funny thing is, I just said to you how when I say things from a stage or I say things on my videos or whatever, it comes from a different place because I'm an actual operator. Mm-hmm. The truth is also there for when I'm talking now about the difference between our market now and the market back in 2006, 2007, 2008. I operated during that market and business went up. And I wasn't even like conscious of the idea that like something was going on right now.
Yeah.
I heard people complaining. I was doing just fine. Like I looked at it and I was like, okay. I remember a headline, the market was going to go down 4.7%. And it was like the world was over. 4.7%. Yeah. I mean, think about that for a second. So if you're doing 20 transactions, that's one transaction, like 4.7%. And then I saw another headline that the number of agents was going to drop off by like 10%. I was like, my market just went up 5%. Like, this is amazing. And this is how my mind has always worked. And it's almost like the world we live in today. I wouldn't know everybody was so racist unless I watch the news and I find that out. Because in my normal everyday life, I hang out with people, we have fun, we do whatever. And then you put on the news and you're like, oh God, everybody hates each other. Like,
right.
Wow, when did this happen? The same thing was happening during that market where like I was operating in my marketplace, doing great, growing, like just figuring out how to build teams before teams were a thing. That's where a lot of our stuff comes from now, our team leader coaching and training and such. But like when I was in it, I was like, yeah, we're just keep growing. Like what is everybody worried about?
Yeah, if you talk to any top producer in any market, they tell you that they thrived during those years. I talked to so many agents in this state. I'm like, hey, how'd you do it? How'd you do it?
Yeah.
It's like, I just kept doing what I always do. I get listings.
Stats are for average people.
Yeah.
That's what stats are for. Stats are for average people. And nobody gets into real estate because they want to be average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody watches Selling Sunset, which couldn't be any less about selling anything other than drama or their bodies. But nobody watches whatever show that everybody's watching now and goes, you know what? I have a dream to be mediocre. I think I'm going to get into real estate. That's the place to do it. And so when you look at stats and you look at these things, they're for the average.
Yeah.
You know? So like stats have never done that to me. They've never...
So I want to dip into this market shift at some point, but before we get there, so you did real estate for, as a full-time agent, not doing, the assistance to your mom, but as you doing it for what, 5 years?
Probably 5 to 7. And the reason why I give that 2-year variance is because there was a timeline of
you were phasing out
where I was like, okay, I got to figure something out here because I was getting off of stages and then going backstage and answering phone calls and going, well, there's got to be something's got to give here.
Why didn't you keep the team or the business and start the other business? Why didn't you have an operator plug into that, just kind of dominate and then go do the coaching?
Few reasons around that. Number one, I was with a brand at the time, and I now work with every major brand in the industry, and so that's career suicide. I was meeting with EXP back when they first started. They wanted a face, they wanted and I was going, I can't do this. Like, it looks awesome. You guys are gonna, whatever, but I can't do it. Like, it's career suicide for me, right?
Right.
So back then I was kind of like, not going to do that, not going to whatever. I did end up selling the team, but the reason why I didn't keep it operating was because I couldn't allow or couldn't have people thinking I was in competition with them. That I'm now like doing real estate or locally I'm doing that or whatever. And so I had to make a decision, and I made a decision about greater calling, and I knew I could always go back to it. But at the time I looked at it and I said, I gotta burn the boats here and I gotta go after it.
You sold it. What did that look like? Did you have a 3-year run or did you just sell it off?
We didn't know what we were doing. Like, honestly, didn't know what we were doing. Like, it's, we've come so far. Like, literally, the industry's come so far.
Yeah.
I think people like me have gone through this kind of stuff. And so you start to learn like about valuations and you learn about, 1.5x times it. And you learn about all this stuff. We didn't know anything about that. It's like,
you're just like, I'm moving on to this thing.
It's like, hey, give me this, do this. And it's just let me get something for this that'll help me go into the next level. And we just didn't know what we were doing. And that's part of, it's funny, man, but that's part of how you learn. It's, you kind of, when you're in an industry, let's remember something first off. Like, coaching in our industry is not that old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, coaching is not that old. And so it's funny because I think there's going to be a drastic shift even in how coaching is done. And people are like, what? And they hold on to it because you get romantic.
Yeah.
What did I say before?
Yeah.
Quickest way to underperform in your potential. Get romantic about how you got there. Look how old it is. It's not that old. And so a lot of things in our industry, when you talk about the selling of teams, and we're going that route now. Teams are more valuable than brokerages in many cases. But man, when I was doing it, I don't want to sound like a dinosaur because it wasn't that long ago. Like I said, I just turned 40, but none of this was normal.
Teams didn't have the market share where they have today.
There weren't even teams.
Yeah, it wasn't
like
even
when
close.
I went to go build a team, talk about learning from your mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. And everybody thought I was nuts because nobody did that. Unless you were KW and you were doing whatever, nobody did that. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't like I talk about now, you asked for some of our pillars. Another thing that I say all the time and will always say, you either run a business or you run around. It's one of the two. You can either run a business or you can run around.
A lot of people run around.
We don't learn how to, because you went to hours of real estate classes. They teach you, how to pass a test. They teach you how to be an attorney. And then you're told don't discuss anything legal because you'll get sued.
How to be a land surveyor.
They teach you how to be an appraiser, which, by the way, I don't think appraisal should even be a part of our industry, but we can have that as a separate conversation.
Have I lit up some haters on that one in the past?
Okay, so I don't know what side you're on.
I'm on your side, by the way.
Okay, but yeah. So when you look at all of these things and you just kind of pull it all together, that's kind of where I came from. That's kind of like, it all came from actual doing. It came from mistakes. We didn't have teams. When I was doing it, everyone in my office is like, "What the heck is he doing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not how we do this."
Especially in this state.
Dude.
Like, Connecticut's the last to adopt.
Ugh.
Really,
the number
anything.
of people I heard about who ended up, who just, I'm used to it now, but like just talking about you and whatever. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, I'm just trying to figure this out.
You still get that now in the coaching industry?
Do we still get that now? I mean, are you kidding me? Dude, if you do anything in today's world that has any kind of public anything, I mean, it's just, the hater rate is strong, but to me, it's just, I don't want to say things that are so cliche, but it's just true. Like, it's just a signal that you're doing something right. It's a signal that you're doing, that you matter. I've never had someone above me talk bad about me.
Yeah.
Never had that happen.
Well, I think, to me, when I look at the coaching industry, I have a strong relationship with TF.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
like,
me
dude,
too.
He's always spoken so highly of you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's
He's
probably
a great
the biggest
guy.
compliment in the industry that you can have.
Oh, he's a great guy. He and I have had many private conversations.
Yeah.
We've talked about the future.
Yeah.
We've talked about how when we look at the future, we believe it's me and him.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, like, that's great, but we both believe that we're good for the industry.
100%.
So I don't believe, short of, just some scoundrel getting in. I've never said scoundrel in my life.
I love that word.
I'm 40 now. I can do it.
What a
it's
word.
all good. It's
What a
part of my
word.
repertoire. I'm 40.
Breaking out the scoundrel.
Scoundrel,
It's
that's
gonna be
right.
the new word for the office
Just
for
you
next
wait.
week, by the way. I like scoundrel.
It's 15 minutes in,
Yeah.
okay? So short of some scoundrel who's just bad for the industry or something, I have no interest in, bashing what people choose to use or who they decide to follow or who they, So he and I have had conversations, and it's like, hey, I look at it. We have right now the third largest coaching and training program in North America. In my mind, we will be number one. And
So
he
is
and I
that
have had
behind?
this-
So is Buffini in the top two?
Yeah,
And then Mike's
he's
now
Mike's
behind.
not in that anymore. Come on. But when we look at it, though, we believe we're both good for the industry.
Yeah.
And we really do believe that. And we have a ton of people that leave us and go to him. We have a ton of people that leave him and go to us. And we have
Sure.
people that go back and forth and, whatever.
Like it's CB, EXP.
But we're good for
Keller
the
Williams.
industry.
Yeah.
Look, what coach you get matters. All of that stuff matters. But at the core, when you take who I am, when you take who he is, and you take what we believe and what we believe about the industry and everything else, I'm the first one when he's at his summit, shoot him a text saying, good luck, man. You're gonna go kill it. Like, whatever. Like it's. I did another podcast and somebody assumed that we would be enemies, and I'm like, why? The industry's big enough, man. Like, that's so childish. The industry is plenty big. And if you believe that someone's good for the industry, you believe, then I'm all for it, man. Like, everyone's going to eat.
So how do you think coaching looks different?
Oh, God. I'm figuring it out right now. I'm figuring it out. You can't have everything change, because there's so many dynamics with this, right? It's
How do you get away from one-on-one
there
accountability?
you go. This is where we're going. So there is a one-on-one dynamic where you can't get away from that accountability. The accountability is what makes people go.
100%.
Look, we can watch hit YouTube videos all day long during the pandemic, that get hundreds of millions of views while we're working out in our living room, and it will never be the same as when you're at the gym with that one person,
Right.
going one more. It's never going to be the same, right?
Great.
And at the same time, there was a dynamic. We were the first ones that did virtual training. We were the first, and it sucked. Like, it was bad, But we had to grow, right?
Yep.
But we can't ignore the dynamic, too, that there is a virtual on-demand aspect of our society right now. There's a Netflix aspect to our society. So the question becomes...
TikTok.
And we've already started kind of playing with this with our team leader coaching and stuff. It's like, what is the dynamic? What is the balance between needing that one-on-one? Because you do. There's no doubt about it. Like, I will never, like, our coaches are awesome. They're like, you've got to do that, right? And then also from the perspective of, do people have at times an on-demand option, meaning that they're at a period right now where they need to get deep into finances. Mm-hmm. They need to get deep into the systems and the structure. They need to get deep into the legal entity and what that looks like. They need to
have a season.
Yeah,
basically.
like having that option during their training or their coaching where they go into a 4-week or an 8-week.
Yeah.
They still have their one-on-one coach, but is there something there? My buddy is. Remember that show on A&E, Flip This House?
Yeah.
I was on that show, and my grandmother didn't find out until she watched it, and then she was ticked at me. But my buddy is the main trainer for them, right? They were CT
Okay.
houses here. Now they're fortune builders, right? And they've got an interesting model that does very, very well. I'm not going to get into their numbers, but when you look at how they switch around what people are able to choose and the Netflix version of what they do, it's just very interesting. And so I'm always a big believer in I don't watch people in real estate.
Yeah.
Like I just don't
Like on
it.
TV.
No, I just mean like in general. I don't. I love Tom, but I don't watch his videos.
Oh yeah, I got
you know what I mean.
I
mean, occasionally I'll stumble across one and like keep it up type of thing. But like it's not like on my like I've got to.
Right.
I like to watch things outside of the industry and see what's going on. So they're in the investment world, not our world of this.
Right. Not in
but
coaching, not in whatever.
But they're number one, and so like they're killing it. And so I always just kind of look at that and I go, what version of that? Because we have our virtual, right? And then, which is more like a gateway drug to get people into one-on-one.
Yeah,
right?
lower cost.
Lower cost. You can do brokerage wide, you can do individual, you can do, I upload those suckers. Like I will shoot. Our how to get listings was 4 months long. I shot it ahead of time.
Yep.
And it's released week by week. We just did a 32 ways to get your buyer's offers accepted. It was a 2-month series. I shot it ahead of time. It's very scalable. It's very, So I just ponder. Like it's one of the reasons why I exercise and I run. It gives me time to think. And I'm not there yet, like as you can hear with my answer. Like I'm just pondering right now. What does that look like? We always talk about great business people put themselves out of business. Like what model would scare you, right? And the truth is there's no model that scares me because our business is so personality based. It's just the truth. Like from the coaching training perspective, it's so personality based,
Yep.
But I still think about like what model would scare me right now? What model, if it was put toe to toe, same personality, same whatever.
Yeah, and you want to put yourself out of business before somebody else does. I totally get that.
That's it, man.
When I do look, and it's a
Instagram
hard.
did.
I certainly don't have the answer for you because when you look at coaching,
I got other things in here. I'm still thinking them through, so I don't want to make them public yet.
Yeah, you don't have to. What I'm saying is because I know the real estate coaching industry so well, and I've received coaching really.
You coach with Tom?
I would coach personally with Tom.
Nice.
So I've received a whole bunch of coaching. I've also had other coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that one-on-one accountability is really hard to replace because I had when we had the debate with Ricky Caruth, right? There's a clear definition to me between training and coaching.
Dude, I saw a part of that and I wanted to yell that at the screen. What are we talking about here?
I had a definition I could articulate. I don't feel
we were
like
talking about a runner in a wheelchair going
yeah.
around the track, and I'm like, we're not talking about the same thing right now.
And so when we talk about the virtual content, that does start to align with training a little bit,
100%.
right? And there's a place for that
100%.
probably in everybody's coaching business, whether it's TF or yours or whatever. And so there's a really good place for that. But there's, to me, still the reason Jordan went out and hired Tim Grover is because he wanted an edge. He had the best coach in the NBA, but he wanted that extra edge.
Yeah.
He was sick about winning.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're really determined to do it, you're going to take every edge you possibly can.
You need more than a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not going to convince me you need a one-on-one coach.
Right.
100%, man. Like the accountability is what matters. And as much as COVID might try to make us think that people didn't matter and, being around it's bullcrap.
We figured that out.
Absolute bullcrap. Yeah. It's yes, 100%. And so that's why I'm thinking it through, because you can never get rid of that dynamic as far as what it does to someone and what it does to the fact that they don't only want to let themselves down, but they don't want to let this coach down. And I saw that debate, and Ricky's a good guy. I know Ricky.
He is
whatever.
a good guy. He means well.
Coaching and training are two different things, and the idea of free coaching, or the idea that paying for coaching means that you don't care about those people. Well, that means every person listening who's charging their clients to buy and sell houses doesn't care about their consumer.
And I went there with him. He's like, "Yeah, you can't go there."
That's just not the case. Like and I think you might have said it or not, but it's just true. Like when you pay for something, it matters. Yeah. There's a reason why you pay for your gym membership, and it's not just, hey everyone, whenever you want to come through.
Do you typically gravitate towards the highest price item given 3 choices?
Why do you?
Because you just believe in it more. Like I will sometimes.
I know what you're saying.
Not on everything.
I know what you're saying.
But like
I don't gravitate towards the cheapest.
I don't either.
That's probably the better way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, look, man, it's called the big screen syndrome. Like this has been proven. This is a marketing thing. Like the reason why I can't think of one, but an electronics store will throw a 75-inch TV in the window, is because you went in there for a 32 and now you buy a 45.
Yeah.
It's not because they think you're going to buy the 75. And so I don't mind quality things. I mean, I will sometimes gravitate towards that, but more so when I'm educated and it makes sense to do it. But the better question is why don't you gravitate towards the cheaper thing, which I don't, because there's assumed value there. I don't know how, even if you start offering one-on-one coaching free, okay, we have coaches who have trouble getting their students to show up when they're paying $500, $1,000 a month, whatever it is.
Which is insane.
When you know that coaching is just an option, as long as nothing else comes up, and hey, I'll just grab another one because it's free.
Right.
For me as a program, and everybody can run their business the way that they want to run it, okay? For me as a program, I'm not looking for our coaching or our accountability to be unless something else comes up. I want it to be a priority. I want testimonials. I didn't get into coaching to make money. I can make money doing a million different things, and I do make money doing a lot of different things, okay? At the end of the day, he's correct. You're trying to help people. You're trying to, when you help someone financially, you give them the ability in their life to make decisions based on what they should do, not what they have to do. Mm-hmm. Those are two different things. Yeah. You give them the ability to come from a place of strength, from a position of strength. And I really believe that, okay? But I don't think you do them any favors by giving them handouts when there's a better option, especially at scale, at mass.
Well, it'd be impossible to...
It's completely impossible. It's completely... It'd be like, I love getting on stage, and I love that moment when I can see the epiphany. I can see it happen. I'm not doing it for free.
Yeah.
There's got to be a value to this. That's just human nature 101. We have to value what it is that can matter.
And people go out of your talks jacked up. Probably 1% is going to take action on it in the immediate short term, the next 2 months.
Higher than 1, but still very disappointing.
Whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a small number out of however many people are in there. And then there's probably, 50% of the room, you would know better than I would, that is thinking about it far too long before taking action.
Dude, we have an epidemic right now of overthinkers.
Yeah.
With all of the anxiety and all this other, we just overthink, man. Like when you overthink, when you live in your head, you create problems that don't even exist. Like that's how it is.
What are some of the biggest problems right now, people overthinking? I know for sure it's, I don't look good in that video. I don't like the thumbnail. Without even knowing how the market's going to respond to it, it's I don't. What are some of the
You're
other...
going video. Let me just go business. Let me just go business. Okay. So people come to me, or they come to one of my seminars, or they follow me on social because they have a certain problem. Okay. Let's just go back to what we said before, right? You either run a business or you run around. Mm-hmm. The idea of success in our industry is that you get to a certain level, you get to 50 plus transactions, solo agent, they put you on a panel, you get up and give all your ideas of how you get there, but secretly you hate your life. You wish you could leave the industry, but you're never going to make that same money somewhere else.
Right.
I see it over and over and over again. And so the thing that always gets me, and I'll point this out to them, is that people will come to someone like me for a solution, and then they will hang on to their current issue that they know 100% is a problem and is not working, and will hang on to that more than they will try something else that is a potential solution that has a potential issue if you are to go after it, but it may solve this problem. And what they do is they hang on to the 100% guaranteed issue because they avoid the thing that potentially is an issue but may solve their problem. And it shows you just how comfortable people like to be. It's the same reason people stay in bad relationships. It's called certainty. So although I have this issue in my business and I know that this isn't working and I'm going crazy and my family hates me and I'm scared to go on vacation and, on and on and on and on and on, right? At least I know what it is. And it's certain. The thing that scares people more than anything is uncertainty. It's a lack of certainty. It's the reason why they say the number one fear in life is public speaking. It's right ahead of death. You've probably heard that over and over again. People aren't afraid of public speaking. They're afraid of uncertainty. Yeah. They don't know what's going to happen, right? And so when you talk about like what is it that's holding people back, it's letting go of that certainty and putting yourself in the hands of someone or some organization or something that has been there, done that, knows what the next step is. And not that they're saying this isn't going to cause an issue. It's saying it's going to cause a better issue. Because our job in business is not to eliminate problems, it's to create better ones. We never eliminate problems. That's never going to happen. Like, sorry, I know it's not motivational. I know it's not whatever. Problems are never going anywhere. Yeah. The goal is to not have the same problems 3 years from now, right? You want bigger and better problems. Day one, how do I create a transaction? Awesome. If that's still your problem 3 years from now, you probably suck and should leave the industry.
Yeah, you haven't grown.
Yeah. I want you by year 3 thinking about, oh, I hired the wrong admin. What do I need to do to get this right? God, what do we do for a payroll service?
Am I the one that's not training right? Could I have solved this
problem? Am I being a bottleneck now? Like, I've got these people here. Oh my God, our onboarding is not good right now. Like, new problems. That's the goal of the whole thing.
Onboarding's not good. Training's not good.
Whatever. It just shouldn't be. I can't create a transaction anymore.
They need a VA because I've burnt them out. Right? It could be something like that. Should any agent be, once they get into this business, have the goal of being a solo agent?
I knew you were going to say that, and I was letting you ask it because I knew exactly where you were going.
Because you're talking about business, you're talking about the help.
No, it's stupidity. It's absolute stupidity. At least get a TC, a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
At very minimum. There's no, we released this last year, our 7 stages of team development. Dude, I built a transaction coordination company. Like, that's how much I believe in it. Like, that's the entrepreneur. We have a company called Cleared and Closed, and that's how much I believe in it. Because I'm like, we changed the structure. It used to be admin was number one. That was your number one hire. I don't believe that anymore. Your number one hire now is a TC. Yeah. And by the way, that's not wait till you do. They go, how many transactions? No. Day one. Yep. There's no risk. Like, hire a transaction coordinator. They've got a custom workflow that you can work with them. You're going to deliver the McDonald's fries where every time every customer gets the same experience. Not if you're busy, they get less. If you're slow, they get more. But there's no risk. Like 8 to 12 hours per transaction, gone. The things that make you great at being an agent is why you suck at handling paperwork. They're 2 different personality profiles. You only pay when you close. If you don't close, I don't pay anything. Right. So you learn from day one how to delegate and how to trust other people and how to realize, oh my God, they don't do it exactly like me, but they do it better. And my clients are happy. And I'm not sitting around after I put my kids to sleep and filling out paperwork and come on, But we don't learn that though.
Right.
It's not what you learn. You get in and you see top producer Bob, who's going crazy and does everything himself. Organized chaos.
I would argue that the brokerages try to push you away from that, people that come into the industry. And I know you probably don't want to go there because you're...
No, I'm good. I'm trying to figure out how honest I should be with
agnostic.
It. Yeah. But I am correct.
But brokers, the big names, right? Yeah. They will, we've got every solution you need. We've got a manager and an office admin. They've got 2 W-2s typically for 75 people. Where the mega
play
teams
games on their phone all day and complain whenever you ask them to do anything.
Exactly. And the mega teams have taken all the market share. Yeah. We'll have 10 to 15 W-2s.
Yeah.
And VAs. Yep. And.
Yeah. Here's my thought.
Yeah.
You're correct. I am broker agnostic. Okay. And we work with every major brand, ton of like the whole thing, right? I'll be leaving here next week and going to work with our client who's the number 1 Century 21 in the world, like completely. Yep. I don't care if they're using my company, another company, the local brokerage, whatever. What I've found, what my experience has shown me, is that at a certain scale, an agent can use their broker services, and that's good, and they should. Like that's part of what the broker is giving them when it's done right, and they have the right people in place. That's a real value add to them, and they're keeping it in house, and they know how they do things and their process, and awesome, And so even if they're using that, that's awesome as long as they've got quality people and they're doing a good job. When people get to a certain scale, it becomes difficult, unless that broker just has a whole department that's doing that stuff. Many times once they get to a certain scale, it becomes difficult to be able to help out that agent or that team anymore, once they get to a certain number. Right. But I don't really care if in the beginning you're using your broker services. I think that's great. I mean, that's showing value. That's awesome.
Or if you need leads, join a big team, whatever it looks like.
Well, we can get into that. Like, should people join a team?
I want to get into that.
Yeah, we can hit that next.
Yeah.
But do something. Like don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and go, this one, that one. In the meantime, you do nothing. You need to learn right from the beginning that you shouldn't be handling the paperwork. And when you think about it, there's no other job. Like, it's ridiculous. It's the largest asset someone's ever going to own. And here we are going, I'll do everything. Anytime you call me, I'm available. Like that's dumb 101. You know, it's not smart. So
Yeah.
Teams.
Totally agree. So teams.
Yeah.
Should you join a team right out of the gates? Is that, or a certain type of person should join a team? Who should join a team and why?
Okay, so I get asked this question a lot, especially newer agents. They're like, should I join a team? And the easy answer is yes. But it obviously with the caveat of what teams are available to you,
Right.
what's being offered to you, what does the broker offer? Maybe they have, you know, but again, generic to everybody listening right now, it's a generic answer because every area is different. We deal with people all over the world, right? So it's all different. But in the U.S., if there is a good team in front of you that is going to provide leads to you and allow you to do on-the-spot training, like real training with real buyers and sellers and get you moving right off the bat, there is no... Look, I would love for you to read my scripts and dialogues all day long. I'd love for you to watch my videos all day long. But at the end of the day, there's a do of this business, and nothing will train you like the first time you screw up in front of a real client. So the quicker you can do that, you know, that emotion you feel of feeling embarrassed, you will learn quicker than any number of times you read my script.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. This is how powerful emotion is, okay? If I said to you, where were you October 26, 2015? You'd be like, I have no freaking clue. Like, I have no clue. But if I say, where were you September 11, 2001, everybody knows exactly where they were.
History class, senior year.
That's because that's how powerful emotion is, right? Like that emotion brings you there immediately. That same power, that same trigger to your brain is the exact same thing that happens the first time you get in front of a client and you mess up something you're supposed to say, or they ask a question and you don't know the answer, or whatever it is, and you will never allow that to happen again.
That's right.
Because it's real. It's not sitting in a room, you know, okay, I've been doing this for 20 minutes. There's a part of that that's good. At some point, you know what I'm saying? Some point you got to get out there in the game, and a team is a lot of times the quickest and easiest way to do that.
When you do screw up, go ahead and pour some peroxide on that wound, you know, by putting in your script on the ride back. Like double down on like, this is what I should have said. This, you know, debrief it, analyze it.
That's
get
it, man.
better.
And it's not even, you know, you start thinking about not just what you said, but when you say it matters too.
Yeah.
I'm not a big scripted
100%.
guy from the perspective of you say A, they say B, you say A, they say
Me
B,
either.
because it never goes that way.
Nope.
But from the perspective of having the buffet available to you,
Yeah.
having the a la carte.
That's a great way to say it.
It's the a la carte, you know? It's the I'm in here, I feel like dessert. Here's where I go, right? And
but
so
I've
like,
articulated dessert, you know,
look, man,
so many times, and I can spit it out.
It's second nature,
yeah, exactly.
right? Like I was talking to an audience the other day, and you know, we were talking about like a lot of the dialogues we use now to you know, create business and to create whatever. And like, for example, you're sitting down at a listing appointment, and at some point you're like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are 2 or 3 things that need to be a 10 in order for you to feel comfortable making the right decision to hire me before I leave here today, right? Like that line, which people answer questions. So now they're going to answer that question. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are 2 or 3 things that need to be a 10 in order for you to feel comfortable making the right decision to hire me before I leave here? They're not going to go, I'm not hiring you. They're going to answer the question because that's what people do.
Right.
And that line isn't like okay, it's been 5 minutes. Ask the question. You feel it when you're there.
Right.
And it rolls off the tongue.
It's usually when they're on the edge of, should I sign tonight or is that going to be weird? Right?
But you set them up right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like they've already now set the tone. Well, I need this and this. And now they've told you what's important.
Right.
And they don't care about any of this other stuff. If these are a 10, I'm making the right decision.
Yes.
To hire you before I leave. But that's not like okay, the countdown's on. It's you feel it in the moment, you know, and because I'm a pro, I practice, it can roll right off. And yet we have an industry full of agents that are so used to being good looking and having good personalities, and if I get the interview, I get the job. And so then they step into this industry and think they're going to do the same thing. And it's like, hey, McFly, that's everyone. That's everyone in the industry.
Right.
You know? Like winging it means you're an amateur, and you can't act like an amateur and then expect to get paid like a pro, right? So learning your dialogues is just part of being a pro.
That's right.
And if you're going to look at me and because you're so cool and you're so whatever, I don't believe in dialogues. I don't believe in scripts. My response is great. Next time you're in an awkward conversation, don't bring up the weather because that's a script.
That is a script.
You learned
the
when
worst
things get
script
awkward
out there.
that
Yeah.
you go, hey, how about that? It started raining today.
Oh, we needed the rain.
What,
bad.
it rained? Oh, yeah, come down hard. Like, and then you talk for the next 30 seconds about the crap that already happened.
Yeah.
What are you doing right
your
now?
app told you yesterday was going to happen.
What's dumber than that?
Yeah.
And yet we don't want to learn dialogues because I know I'm better than that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way to really blend in. talking about that crap.
Dude, it's just the truth. And I say that as like humor is a great way to get people to understand because it breaks down barriers. It breaks down their wall. And so when you say something like that, they're like, holy crap, that's exactly what I do.
So you absolutely need to stand out. You need to be professional as well. If you're new, you can't be too vanilla. No. Or maybe you should definitely be professional, but being too vanilla is going to like push you into that 90% that does no business. If you're serious about growing your business, you want to take it to the next level, it's time to start investing in the people that can help you do the things you're not supposed to be doing. Every time I've grown one of my companies, it's because I've hired a key person that has taken stuff off of my plate that I shouldn't be doing, whether it's data entry, transaction management, right? Sifting through all those emails that we get. Like if you're spending your time deleting emails that are junk or unsubscribing from this crap that you shouldn't be seeing anyways, you're not advancing your business. Virtual assistants have by far been the best hire in both my companies, BAM and the number one real estate team in Connecticut, to help us advance. Virtue Desk can help you accomplish that goal. Contact Virtue Desk today. They've got the best virtual assistants in the game. Virtual Desk will help you grow your business. Hit the link. Hook up with Virtue Desk. But where's that line of, a lot of people want to wear whatever the heck they want to wear.
Sure.
They want to wear flip-flops.
Where do you live?
I want people to just, work with me because this is who I am. What's the line right now?
All right.
We've decasualized,
There's no more casual Fridays.
Yeah. There's all this kind of stuff. So it's casual every day.
Remember when casual was like for a man was like a khakis and polo on a Friday, and it was like, holy crap, I don't have a tie on.
Here's my take is you got to know where you're at in the business.
Yeah.
When I came into the business, I was, in the sales side of the business, I was 27 years old. I was bankrupt.
Yeah.
And I looked young.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any business, so I wore.
Is that when you started putting the Cruella de Vil up here?
That's when I started.
Is that when you started doing it?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I was wearing a suit and tie.
Yeah.
That wasn't a nice one. I was getting it from Joseph A. Bank, but I wanted to age myself up.
Obviously not a sponsor of the show. Okay.
Not a sponsor, but I wanted to age myself up.
Not after that comment.
Joseph A. Bank, let's roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to age up.
Yeah, I get it. Dude, I was getting on stage in front of thousands of people, looking like I was in my father's suit, you know? So brings us to another one of the principles of my training or our coaching, which is that great marketing doesn't just attract the right people, it repels the wrong ones. Mm-hmm. Okay? So great marketing doesn't just, we think of marketing and we just think of it as like leads, pull them in, marketing, whatever. Great marketing doesn't just attract the right people, it repels the wrong ones. And we need to remember that. Our goal is not to attract everybody, our goal is to attract a tribe.
If you're at 2 deals, is there a wrong client?
If you're at 2 deals, no, there's never a wrong client. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm talking about attraction right now.
Yeah.
Someone else comes to you. There's never a bad, I get that all the time. They're like, well, they want to overprice it. Great. Leverage it for more buyers and sellers. I'm not in that, turn the business down, mentality. I'm talking about your attraction right now. I'm not talking about someone comes to you and you go, well, you don't seem to dress like me, so I'm afraid this isn't going to work out. It's not what I'm talking about.
We don't align on politics.
Come on, stop it. They shouldn't even know where you align.
Exactly.
We're in a different world right now, right? Yeah. Like we're in a world now where you legitimately create, a content library. Like you are attracting people through the content you create. Yeah. And so that means you're out there. It means you're visible. Remember, visibility trumps ability. And a lot of people would come to me now and go, well, I didn't get into real estate to create content. And I'd look back at them and say, great, my brother's a mechanic. He didn't get into fixing cars many years ago. He got in and learned about a hammer and a wrench and, whatever. And then he had to learn computers. He didn't get in to learn computers. But if he didn't learn computers, he's out of business.
Right.
Because you may not have gotten into real estate to be a content creator, but you're in it now. And if you don't want to be out of business, right? And so when you look at it, it's not a matter of where's the line, where's the whatever. It's who are you trying to attract? If you're trying to attract people like you, obviously there's a line. You need to wear clothes. Okay, I'm not saying there's no line. Okay,
it's a good call.
Yeah, but there is when I started, I used to wear suits and whatever. I was one of the first ones that kind of went, screw this. This is not me.
Yeah.
This is not me. I would get off stage and just kind of be like, this is exhausting. Like this is not me on any level, right? My career changed. This is so corny, but it is what I thought. But it's so cliche and so corny, but it's just the truth. My career changed when I decided that I was enough. Like that I didn't want to spend 5 years trying to act like something I wasn't. Mm-hmm. just to attract people who didn't even really know who I was, okay? And you can either put the work in behind the scenes to be okay with who you actually are in front of people, or you can put the work in front of them to act like what you think it is you're supposed to act like. And my career changed when I finally went, hey, I'm either good enough for this or I'm not.
Was it an epiphany moment, something else?
Yeah, I got off stage and I'm like, I hate myself right now. If I watched myself back and I saw that guy and I saw how he was dressed, first off, I wouldn't even recognize him. And second off, I'm like, what a dope. Like, that's not me.
And you started making instant decisions based off of that moment. That's a rare trait.
I made a decision. You want to know the real question I asked myself? And
Yeah.
This is very difficult. I asked myself the question if I would rather succeed as a fraud or fail as myself. Now, that sounds really easy, but I really want to succeed. Like, I'm really driven. So I was like, well, maybe I'll succeed as a fraud for like 5 years, bank it, and then I'll go back to, these are the things that go through your head. Like, this is
That's
real.
the thought you had.
Because I don't like to lose, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, but come
If
on.
it can get me to the win, I'm willing to sacrifice it.
I'm like, am I really a fraud? Like, whatever. And I ultimately came to the fact of like, and this was real, like, if I have to be a fraud to make it, then I don't belong in this anyway. Why do I have to act like something that I'm not in order to win here? Mm-hmm. And those 5 years I would have spent, I could have spent then in something I was actually made to do. So I'm robbing myself, So when I say, hey, I'm enough, I don't mean it like some corny, like, you're enough, darling, like that kind of a thing. I just, I hate that stuff. I really do.
Me too.
But there was an epiphany of, this is my personality. This is what I look like. This is what I dress like. This is how I talk. This turns some people off. Other people love it, whatever. This is either enough or it's not. And if it's not, I need to channel it in a direction that uses because I knew I had a skill set. I knew I had certain talents. I knew I had certain gifts. And so I don't want to waste them. So let's not just have this be the first thing I come along and my desire to win makes me make it. But I don't really love that, And so I'm like, all right, here we go. Game on. Let's throw the dice. This is going to be me. Like, what's that show? The circus movie? This is me.
I'm bad with movies.
Greatest Showman. The whole This Is Me.
Movie guy.
Yeah.
Bobby.
I'm the big girl singing the song, This Is Me. I'm like, here it is, okay? Like, this is me now, okay? And it was either going to work or it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was like, oh my God, it's starting to take off now. I'm starting to work with every major brand. The calls are going off the hook. I can't handle my schedule anymore. I was like, oh shoot, we're onto something here. And I can't tell you how freeing that is. Because the truth of the matter is, while there are many sides to me, meaning like if you see me on stage, you see me on whatever, you'd be surprised to know I'm a natural introvert. My favorite place in the world is alone, okay? But I am the same guy on the stage that I am at my kid's soccer game, that I am at the, whatever. Like, I just got to a place where I'm like, I'm enough. This is me. It's going to work or it's not. And the idea that when I run into people now, I don't have to think to myself, which one do I have to be right now?
Yeah, the only one.
It's exhausting. And I finally got to just be like, no, I'm good. This is going to work or it's not. And luckily it worked and it continues to work. And it will,
So
keep going.
Winning for Jared James looks like what? You said you're ultra driven. Looks like what over the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah.
And you map it out like a Gino Blafari will map out 20 years, and he'll carry it around.
I hate that stuff. And he's
got his whole life plan. So
look, good for him. All
right.
on them. I think that stuff's bull crap. I'll
so
be
you're
very
not
honest.
You're not doing the 20-year like.
You ever
this
been
is how it's
successful?
gonna look.
Do you
this
always
is how
see
it's
around the
gonna
corner?
look. What I do say is I see around the corner with how we're building the team.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see around the short corner right ahead of us because it's happening.
Right. You see 20 years down the road?
Not 20 years.
So take 20 years.
That's not a corner. That's a cross-country trip.
I'm just going to tell you that 20 years from today, when I was 20 years old, I had no idea what I'd be doing today.
Right. I would agree with that.
So like I said, each person their own. Let them, whatever works for them, whatever's going to keep them focused. And I think that what that's really all about. I can just tell you personally, myself, that's not how I think. So like a lot of times people will say to me, what does it look like? Are you the number one coaching company in the world, like in North America? Are you the number, which really the world, because there's not really other big coaching companies outside of that, for real estate. Are you the number one? Are you this, that? To me, like all those things are given as far as like, we stay on a certain path, we stay on a whatever, like we're going to be a player with that. That's not how I view things. And I know that's how we're supposed to view things. Because it's like, especially in my business, it's supposed to be such a numerical thing. That's not winning for me. To me, those things are a given. I legitimately believe that no matter what I do, no matter how far we push it, we're going to win. We're going to do great. We're going to that's not how I view it, right? For me, when you really look at a win 5 or 10 years from now, it's going to be how much change has occurred and how much I'm still challenging myself. Like, I do not want, the numbers are going to be the numbers. Like, those are, I know what those are going to look like. For me, though, the biggest shame to me would be if 5-10 years from now, I was in cruise control. We made a lot of money. We're good. That's what I'm always fighting against. That's why we started Cleared and Closed, and we started Jarja Media, and we did these things because, I don't want to rest on my laurels. Someone asked me once what my greatest fear was at a Q&A, and I had to think a second because I'm not a fearful person. It's not how I think. It's not I'm not like I'm immune to it, but it's so weird because I'm an eternal optimist and pessimist at the same time. It's like I equally love people as much as I hate them. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing to say, and please don't be offended if you're listening to this, but it's just when you come in contact with enough people, you're just like, enough. But then there's this other side of me that just loves people so much. It's why I do what I do, and it's why I can't stop doing it, right? It's the, won't stop, can't stop type of thing, right? But I thought about this, and I'm like, I don't really think like that. I'm an eternal optimist in the sense that I always assume everything's going to work out. That's how I think. And so I thought about it, and then I looked back at this person, and I said, my greatest fear on this planet is leaving this earth to a standing ovation to all of you, and then getting before God and having him say, what the hell? Okay? And so what do I mean by that? I don't believe that I'm judged according to you. I don't think I'm judged according to you. I think I have a certain skill set and a certain ability, and it has nothing to do with the people around me. And just like agents can get into a place, and you'll have an agent who's doing $250,000 and they suck because they should be doing $500, but they compared themselves to everybody around them. And they went, oh, look, they're only doing $125. I'm killing it. And then you have another agent doing $75, and they actually are killing it because they have a certain ability. They're at a certain stage of their life. They're a single mother with 3 kids. They're, whatever. That's how I view it. I don't compare myself to all of you. I don't compare myself to TF. I don't compare myself to, any of those things. I look at it as like I need to be constantly struggling. I need to put myself in positions where I'm constantly struggling. I'm constantly having to work my gifts. I'm constantly having to work those muscles. I'm constantly having to, and whatever that means it's next. I don't know what's 20 years from now. I know we'll still have a program. I know we'll be massive. I know that's not what I'm. It's not
so
what
you're
I'm about.
Enjoying the process. You love digging in and doing the work.
I love it.
You've got what do you got? 2 boys?
Yeah.
You've got 2 boys. You just recently divorced.
Yep.
So I know you're a big family man. Just
time.
anyone that follows you
100%.
online,
That's real.
Pick
man.
up on that. That's
100%,
super real and authentic. Obviously the business, you articulated that. What's the personal stuff for Jared? Is it just all family and business? Is there anything else in between there?
Yeah, in what sense? What?
Like fishing or boating or any of this crap. Do you like? I like to golf, so golfing would be my only one thing.
No.
Do you have a one thing that you like to do? Fitness, obviously.
And
then how much do you need to?
Fitness
to
isn't even
away?
like a hobby. Fitness to me is more like it's a
Requirement
necessity. It's a necessity to do what I do. A lot of things. A lot of things. What I'm talking about on the road right now. One of the main points I talk about is building capacity. People ask me all the time, how do you do it? How do you run these things? How do you go to various countries? How are you there with your boys' stuff?
It's actually
how do you
part of the process of being an operator.
It's just, we look at it wrong. We always go, how do I juggle more balls in the air? It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. You can't juggle more balls in the air. You have to build capacity to be able to. To pour more water, you have to have a bigger cup. Yeah. And so exercise and those things, to me, time with my boys, that kind of stuff is building capacity.
Have you sweat today?
Yes, I did actually.
That's your saying, right?
I did. Check. Did you sweat today, man?
Did you sweat today?
It's on my story.
Yeah,
it's on Instagram.
That. I love it.
But I did. I don't post it every time, by the way. And it's amazing the days I don't post it, the number of messages I get. Did you do it? Did you do it? And I'm like, yes, I just don't post it every day. But I've got other stuff. I've got someone I'm kind of seeing right now, which is nice. I'm not really like a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Like going fishing. I'd be bored, and I just bought a house on a lake.
Where at?
I'd be bored out
say?
of my mind. I don't care. It's in Milford.
Oh, okay.
It's right near my kids.
Yeah.
I was only looking in Orange, but this was in Milford, but closer than all the houses in Orange. It's weird how it just works.
Yeah.
But I don't care. It's but I'm not much of that. I guess my hobby is I love being alone. Like literally, like when you look at introvert, extrovert, this is where people miss it. They assume that a personality like mine, or somebody who gets on stage or is on video or does those things, that I'm this, how are you today? By the way, this is where me and Tom really differ. Is he is much more like
very charismatic,
and I'm much more like I flip that switch. But like when I'm by myself, so introvert, extrovert. Extrovert and introvert, the way you know what someone is, it's how they recharge.
Yeah.
So extroverts recharge by being around people.
Yep.
That's it. Doesn't mean introverts, while they may have the ability, this is why many salespeople, most public figures and celebrities are introverts.
Yes.
They know how to flip the switch.
Yeah.
But I recharge by being alone. So because I'm surrounded by people all the time, when you ask about hobbies or you ask about whatever, I like to my hobby is just kind of get alone. Like that's it. That's how I recharge, because you're just surrounded. I was in the gym today. I'm in the sauna and I had a guy doing this, looking at his phone, looking at me, looking at his phone, looking at me, look at whatever. And he goes, "Are you Jared?"
Looking at you in the sauna.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow. Now
yeah.
we're getting somewhere.
Hey, you know what? What's the rating on this show? So he's like, "Are you Jared?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh," and then he starts like, now he wants to talk my ear off for the next 40 minutes. That's exhausting to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh God. Like for me, being in the hotel room, being back at my house, there are really only 3 people on the planet that I can be with and recharge. Like, everyone else exhausts me. Not in a bad way, just meaning it's an exertion of energy. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And for me to get back to where I need to be to continue to exert that energy, I have to recharge. Like the iPhone has got to get plugged in. If you just talk on it 24/7, this thing is worthless.
When you're sitting there alone, are you consuming an audio book, or are you just like, are you a big meditator? You're just sitting there. You're
Listen
not just
to a
sitting
podcast,
there.
watch a dumb show. That's
You'll just watch something brainless,
mindless,
Seinfeld, whatever.
just something, but just mindless. I'll listen to a podcast or do something like that. You know what's crazy? And this is stupid. Like even just knocking out emails, getting stuff done actually recharges me.
That's the process, though. That's not a real recharge.
It is though. Like for me, like
you like email?
Yeah, because there's something, whether it's email or whatever it is.
You're
I'm
a Mark
getting done,
Cuban guy.
There's something about when I get something done that just goes like, oof. It's like a video game when like you're low on life and you run across that little shiny thing and you hit it and you get like half your life back. Weird example, but
great example.
Yeah, but when I do that stuff, it's like I hit that charge and I go, ooh, all right, I'm almost back up to full. Like it's like I'm knocking things off the scale of what needs to get done.
Yep.
And so that recharges me, weirdly enough, when I'm by myself. Look at how I am in my office. When I'm home, when I'm not on the road, I'm only in the office half the time. I come in for 3-4 hours. And I do half entrepreneur, content creator, personality, and I do half CEO. I come in for 3-4 hours because I know that when I'm in there, everyone's going to keep coming in, as they should. They want to knock this out. They want to know what's going on with this. We need approval on this. We need whatever. Awesome. But I'll never get anything done. So then I go in and do that. The second half of my time, my office will tell you, I'm out doing somewhere else by myself because I've got to spend time creating the actual content people want to hear. I can't get so busy that I don't actually produce anything, if that makes sense, right? Like, and that's the mistake many people make. They get so busy, they never actually produce anything. Busy, doing plenty, no production. Right? I did a Jared James show on YouTube about this, called Are You Too Busy to Ever Actually Be Productive? Right? So I'm just very conscious about this stuff, and I've learned it by watching. I watched other speakers that I looked up to and these coaches and trainers I looked up to, and I watched how they had a great message, and then they spoke that message for years, and they got all these students, and they coached them one-on-one themselves. And they traveled around to do events to deliver this same speech, and they never left the time needed to actually work the gift that got them there in the first place. And then the industry eats them up and spits them out in 3 to 5 years. And I saw that as a youngin', and I went, I wasn't at that level yet, but I was like, I need to figure this out. How do I not allow that to happen? And part of that was just by creating the priorities, for myself. Priorities about us, not other people. Of what do I need to do to make sure that I'm giving enough to keep people attracted, to keep people whatever, but that I'm also able to create the very stuff that attracts them to begin with. And so now my whole schedule works around that.
Do you have someone holding you accountable to this? Do you have like your own coach, a mentor that's, helped you with business?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Nobody you guys would know. But yeah, absolutely. And then obviously like little things, stupid stuff. Like I don't, I've got an assistant that handles my schedule and does, all that kind of stuff. But absolutely, man. But I'm very... I don't know, my head has always kind of worked like this. There's other areas where I'm a moron. I'm a directional moron. My ex used to say to me, we were driving around town and just directionally, she's like, how can someone so intelligent? And I just wanted her to stop there. She goes, be such an idiot in this area of like just, geography and, directionality and all that kind of stuff. So my head works in certain ways. So when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm good. Like I got it. You know what I mean? And then there's other things where I have to be very intentional. And one of those things, by the way, because I'll just work 24/7. If you're like, oh, that's sad, that's whatever. I'm like, great, well, you go watch, I don't know, season 6 of House or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, it's what I love doing. It's what actually recharges me. But what I've found, especially, and I've always been like this with my kids and it's just like, I have to make time because I want to. Not because I will just go without if I don't think about it. But I actually want to. So I have to be very intentional about that kind of stuff and making sure that, even when I'm not with them, I'm calling them, I'm FaceTiming, I'm doing, because otherwise my head will just, like a lot of people.
All right, I want to wrap up with just a little bit about, I guess, maybe the market, but more along the lines of what agents should do, not for their business, not their real estate business in the market, but what they should do to capitalize on this business. I feel like far too few agents actually own a significant amount of real estate.
Sure.
And, there's 5 or 6% fees on this real estate, but there's 95 or 94% equity on the other side. Mm-hmm. And if agents, and, I'm curious of what you're doing to maybe even help agents get in the position of being on the 94%.
Dude, that's so much of our focus. We're finishing up the agenda right now. So we have we do our event every year, the Jared James Advance, right? Mm-hmm. And our next one's coming up in October in Nashville. It's our 2-day event, right? And I'm finishing up the agenda right now. And part of that agenda is just basically coming up with the well-roundedness of getting them to understand, what are all these different areas to make sure that you're not just successful in selling enough houses, which is what they all look at. It's the volume. It's how many houses have I done? But what are you doing with that? How are you leveraging that? Like, what's that absolutely look like, right? So when you say like what people should be doing right now, it's simple. I mean, it's all brand building, like I talked about your content library. Like the number one thing I don't think people realize in the idea of creating a content library is the idea of how much it lives on, and I always say to people, look, don't just listen to what I'm saying, watch what I'm doing. The reason why creating your content library is and it's so simple too. Like people are like, what do I shoot content about? Well, what questions do you have? Yeah. What's in your emails? What's in your text messages? What's in your answer the questions? It's really simple. But the reason why it's so powerful and it's the ultimate, I'm going to go somewhere else with that in a second, but the reason why it's so powerful and it's where everybody needs to be focused right now is because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Mm-hmm. We've had students this week that have signed up for coaching who watched my team building video from 8 years ago. And so when you look at your consumer, when you look at your buyer and seller, you shoot a video. What's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval? At what step in the process do you get a home inspector? At what, whatever. A certain percent of the market right now is going to watch that because it applies to them. It is, and then a certain percent doesn't apply to them at all. But 90 days later, doesn't apply to them anymore. Now applies to them. 90 days later, doesn't apply to them. Applies to a new group. The same video keeps feeding the market.
Right.
And that's the part that I don't think people pay enough attention to is that when you don't create a content library, when you don't put content on there, and by the way, things like Instagram and these other places, they have a very short shelf life.
Yeah, so we're talking like YouTube, your blog.
Yeah, I was going to say YouTube and blog, they live on, and that's a whole other place we could go. So number one, we need to be creating a content library because while you're overthinking it and you're sending me DMs on Instagram about what lighting you should get, someone's actually shooting videos. Okay, so let's stop those excuses. What camera? What this? What? Just shoot a video. Let's just start getting it out there. But then the other thing that I would say right now that really matters as we head into the market shift, which is good for most professional agents, when you look at the world we live in, where it's all of these disruptors and all of these third parties, and everybody's coming to steal your business, right? Last year was the first time in history we saw over $100 billion in commissions. Nobody ever talks about that. It was the largest increase in the history of our industry, over a 16% increase, okay?
Ancillary fees were higher.
Yeah, but out of that $100 billion plus, 91% of the 50% of the agents made 91% of the revenue. 50% made 9% of the revenue, right? Yep. So there's amazing opportunities right now. But when you look at all the disruptors and everything else, the number one way to counter what's going on and not allow them to steal your business is to simply take care of your business. You know, they had a study before the market went up that the average lifetime value of a client was $117,000, meaning the average client is worth that much to you, okay? Yep. Now, that was before lifetime the market went nutty and all of a sudden it was going up. So it's even more now. Now it's probably 150, 160, 170.
Yep.
What agents need to do right now is they need to stop and ask themselves, do I own my business or do I rent my business? Would you build a house on rented land? Probably not. And so when you look at all of these third parties and everything else, I'm not for or against whatever, but if your whole business is built on that and you're not focused on your database, which is the most unsexy but most powerful thing in your business right now, growing that database, growing visibility. Every time you have content, it's able to go to them. They think about you all the time. Like if you're spending more time on that than you are building your database, your system's broken right now. If you're ignoring social because you think that you don't need to see that John had chicken for dinner, it's about being able to be direct to consumer. And at the end of the day, just like my business, their business, whatever, they need to start to ask themselves, do they own their business or do they rent it? And would you build a house on rented land? We need to start looking at our business and building our database.
Yeah.
I know we all want to have marketing and we want to spend money with Zillow and money with all these different places that create, instant leads. And you can do that. That's awesome. I'm not saying not to do that. I'm not anti-pro or anything else. What I'm saying is from a marketing standpoint, let's remember that part of your marketing is not just that direct, I need a response right now. If you don't have marketing that's building your database right now, then you are at risk in the future.
Yeah.
And you do have a chance of somebody else taking over. But at the end of the day, they're going to keep buying and selling houses through agents. The only question is whether it's going to be you or not. And if you get romantic about how you got here, it's the quickest way to underperform on your potential. Build your database, build your database, build your database. That is direct to consumer.
Yeah, Nick Bailey might have stole it from you.
I love Nick, and Nick, I know you're going to hear this. He'll admit he steals a ton from me.
Because he says it a little different. He says a bunch of agents are about to find out that they were order takers.
Yeah.
Over the last.
So Nick is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I love Nick. And Nick, I know you're going to see this, buddy. I love you. And we joke about it. Like, that's my guy. So he'll even tell you, he's like we'll go and do an event, and he's like, what should I not say here? Like, we're just buddies. So like, I like talking to him about whatever, and hey, here's a one-liner for this, or here's a whatever. That's my buddy. Like, but he does an amazing job with it. Like, he's a guy,
the most underrated CEO in the game right now.
I mean, he dyed his hair red just to take
really?
over CEO of Remax. No, it's not real. The hair is red.
No, I know.
The hair is legitimately red.
But I just met him for the first time this year.
Oh, he's a great guy.
And I was like, he's thinking about the business the right way, and he's been there before.
Smart guy.
He's like hitting his, he's about to just do it.
Look, I joke around and I say, yeah, he takes a ton of my stuff, but I can say that because he's my buddy. But at the end of the day, you still have to deliver it. Again, I work with all the brands and I love them all, and there's good things about all of them. But from his perspective, like him in general, when you look at people who work at Remax and have, you've got someone who not only understands the business and understands where things need to go and understands technology and understands all of that. And I think it's honestly getting a little underplayed right now because they've been around. And so Inman and all these places like to write all the articles about all the newest places, whether it's working or not. It's not cool to talk about. But he knows what's going on, and he's able to execute on it. They're working in the background, and he also delivers from the stage in a way that 99.9% of CEOs, and I'm just being kind, can't do. Let's face it. Most CEOs get up, and that's when we all start checking our phones.
Right.
No
doubt.
I mean, I get it. You got to do it, whatever. But, they're in a good position with him.
Well, what Remax is doing is what you said earlier in the podcast, where they are, when they're attracting who their customer, the agent is, they are also expelling who is not a fit.
We've had these convos. Like I said, he's one of my best buds. So literally my girl was just hanging out with him and his wife, without me because I had to cancel that. My son had a soccer tournament, so I had to cancel.
Why? He's local?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
No,
All right,
no,
I didn't
no.
think so. Yeah,
my whole life is on planes.
You're
man.
all over the
like
place.
doing,
Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't think he was local to here. Yeah.
No, he's in Denver.
Yeah.
He's in Denver.
That's right.
But no, he gets it. They've got a good one with him. There's no doubt about it. We talk all the time about the stuff in the industry and everything, and it's again, work with all the brands. Got a lot of friends in the industry, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, good dude.
Yeah.
Your phone's gone off a few times. I could see you got a little motivational something on your screensaver there. What do you got? Just talk. Don't talk. Just act.
Yeah, it's stupid, but yeah.
Do you do that all the time?
I switch them up.
So I switch them up too. I do the same
I switch
thing.
them up. Not.
I got Muhammad Ali on there right now.
Which one? Which quote you have? I'll
No, not his quote.
I'll tell you my favorite
I just
Muhammad
have
Ali.
the
You know my favorite Muhammad Ali quote?
the knockout.
You may know this, you may not know this, but my favorite Muhammad Ali quote was when he was interviewed before he went to defend his title, and they asked him how many push-ups, how many sit-ups you do, and he says he doesn't count. And then he goes, well, that's not true. He goes, I don't count until it hurts because that's the only time it counts. And for me, that's always been like it's like, when do we stop working out? When it hurts. We're like, oh, got it. We start running, it hurts, and we're like, oh, went for a good run. And there's something that champions do, that something triggers in them, that when everybody else quits and goes, oh, I did it, I can take credit, I can check it off that I did it.
Check the box.
They go, it finally counts. I'm finally going to get the edge over all of my competitors right now. And that's the difference. I've always thought about that. Like it's, I think about it all the time. I think about it when I'm running. I think about it when I'm working out. I think about it when I'm working. I think about it when I'm doing stuff with my kids. I think about it, that discomfort. I did a podcast with our director of coaching 2 or 3 days ago, something like that. And we talked about the difference between very successful people and non-successful people. And she was like, well, what do you think the difference is? And I think it's actually very simple. Everyone assigns meaning to everything, subconsciously or consciously. And whether they recognize it or not, everything that happens in your life, everything that happens in your business, at the end of the day, when it happens in your head, you say, what does this mean? And based on how you answer that question determines what you do next, right? And so, one person gets a listing appointment on their first ever $3 million property, and they're shocked. And they're like, oh my God, it's amazing, right? And they lose the listing. And another person gets that exact same one and thinks this, oh my God, this is the first one ever, whatever. And they lose the listing. And whether they recognize it or not, they say to themselves, well, what does this mean? And one of them goes, well, I knew I didn't belong in this league. I was out of my league. They could tell this. I just got to stick to what I do. And the other one went, oh my God, things are looking up here. I just got my first ever $3 million listing appointment, and now the sky's the whatever, like lookout world. And they have the complete same experience.
Yeah.
But they both ask the question without even recognizing it. What does it mean? And when they answer the question of what does it mean, they then continue to tell themselves that answer over and over and over and over again. And we live in a world where everybody's so worried about what everybody's saying to them on Twitter and in their DMs on Instagram and behind their back in real life, when the truth of the matter is they haven't even solved the voice that matters more than any of them, and it's their own. They're saying things to themselves constantly that aren't helping them on any level, because we all ask, what does it mean?
Well, that's a great place to end right there.
All right.
You nailed it. Guys, if you're not already checking out Jared's stuff, I got it all linked below. I really appreciate you doing this, Jared, and we're definitely going to do something again, because now when I'm here in the summer, I can just kind of tap into you.
Here in the summer, what's that mean? Do you go somewhere?
I am a full-time Florida resident.
Florida, that's why you dyed your hair gray.
That's why I dyed my hair gray. I come back once a month, but
to fit in, discount.
That's right. I will be checking you up. You're going to have me in your office, right?
We're in Florida. Sure, we're in Florida.
Naples.
Wow, that really is. Are
Southwest.
you old enough? I heard they check for IDs there, but you got to be old enough.
It is aging down. Everybody wants to be there.
I guess you have to tell yourself that.
Yeah. But I'm not a Miami guy. Maybe you're a Miami guy.
I'm not a Miami guy.
No, if you like
I just did an event in Miami.
Quiet, you want to be over on the West Coast.
By the way, loved it. I was with a client we just did in Miami with a company called Lux, and it was awesome. And Miami's super cool. And when the event was all over, we got to do a nighttime thing, and they rented a place out, and it was super cool. Had an absolute blast. I mean, on an everyday basis, like when it comes to events and everything, I'm back to my room.
Yeah.
Unless I've got a friend there with me or something, I'm back to my room. But I mean, I love the sun. I'm not going to get in the water.
You afraid of the water?
Not afraid of the water.
It's just a waste of
Look,
time.
the only thing worse than dying in a shark attack is not dying in a shark attack. It's the only thing worse. Okay.
I like the hot tub, that kind of stuff. All right. Jared, appreciate you.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.